Good morning, my family. Welcome to the Kaffeeklatsch. I come to you mostly freshly shaven this morning. Hello, everyone. How's everyone doing? Let's see. Get the right window open. It's taking a while. Excellent. You guys hear me? Hello. Good morning. All right. So, good morning, Chris Mendoza. Good morning, Enid. Let's see. Good morning, Heather. Morning, Paige. Mary Beth, good morning. Dawn, good morning. Hello. Cindy, good morning. Sarah, good evening, but dinner time over there. Good morning. Audrey, good morning. Let's see who else. Yes, the beard. The beard is gone. Dolly, say good morning.
Good morning.
She's right here. You just can't see her. She's right there. Right there. Anthony, good morning. Yes, no shave November. Right. Both streams seem to be stable, which is great. I hope you're all doing very well this morning. Remember, I'll just say good morning, and you guys will apply whatever time zone you're in. Uh, so as I was saying, I hope you're all doing very well. We're getting that nice fall weather starting. It's getting a little cooler, which I really appreciate. And school runs in the morning, which is always great. So my 4:30 mornings, 4:30 a.m. mornings are starting. I was doing it prior, but now it's like serious. 4:30 training, and then getting ready to go out. How are you all doing? Got my Java. Java. Very powerful this morning. All right, let me do the shout outs real quick. Everybody's here. I'm glad that we're both streams are stable because last Kaffeeklatsch we had one stream just poof, out of just disappear. Good morning, Ann. Welcome. Oh, jeez. They're doing your theme song. Hello to everyone on YouTube. Thank you guys so much. Please don't forget that if you're on YouTube, hit like and subscribe. Share when you can. Thank you for everyone on the worldwide, YouTube channel. Thank you for joining us and being here. Linda, good morning. How are you? Let's see. You guys can see the text up on the screen, which is nice. Isa, good morning. Welcome. It's good to have you here. Yeah. How you doing? Good. In case you don't recognize that name, Isa Sanchez, that's my sister who's dropping in. So thank you so much for being here with us, Lee. It's awesome. Let's see. So huge shout out to everyone on YouTube. Thank you guys for being here. Instagram. Okay. I've got stuff lined up. I have stuff lined up every mob, apparently. But thank you so much for being here. And thank you so much for visiting us on Instagram. The stuff that's lined up, I kind of have to sort it, and then I will be releasing it soon. Okay, so it's always soon, TM. Jennifer Joes, welcome. So please go visit us on Instagram at Bitten Peaches and follow us there. It's really important. We are on Zazzle today. I'm swagged up, so I have my Zazzle hat. This is Zazzle, and this is a Zazzle. This is a swag shirt. You guys recognize who this is, right? If you don't recognize who this is, really, what are you doing? What are you doing if you don't recognize who this is? It's like the star of the M&S series. So you can get this on Zazzle. Just get your shirt, get your swag, get the hat. Fantastic. The hat's really. I broke in the other hat to such a degree that it was more than distressed. It was just really, geez, it was in bad shape, so I had to get the backup. Let's see. Here we go. Let's put the link up. Thank you, darling. This is the link for Zazzle. See how StreamYard is behaving. It's going to put it up anytime soon. It is. Wow. I am impressed. No, you cannot expect bribe for some juicy stories because my sister knows better. So go to Zazzle and get yourself some swag. M&S EMANDES. We have a whole bunch of stuff there. This is the link. Please use this link. That reference number helps us, and we can track the analytics and do all that fun stuff. So I want to touch upon this next before we actually Chris, why don't you give me the authors that we have to promote this week before I move on to the next topic, which is Patreon. Let's get the authors out because I really want to. Yeah, you can't. She's sworn to secrecy. She can't say anything about anything. Rebecca, good morning. Welcome. Yeah, let's do the indie authors because we are, what is it? We WSOIA. Yeah, WSOIA. We support our indie authors. So the first one we have is Nicole Grotepas. She is part of the duo. The link is coming up. Don't forget these links will also be available in the MoB. And the book she's doing is Arise Fire. It has a really good cover. Arise Fire, Light Beer School for the Broken, Delta Underground Operatives Retired, book 3. So it's kind of an offset or offshoot of the Delta Underground Operatives. This is kind of a retired group. So go there. It's a link. Nicole's a great person. She also does a Fantasy Arcanum, which is kind of like a newsletter. She helps promote books. So she also promotes indie authors. Click that link. Go get the. By now, I hope you have the DUO retired book 1 and 2. But go get book 3 and let's support our indie authors because she's really, really good. Oh, don't click that. You're not supposed to be in there. I'm gonna have to boot you again. All right. Yes, she is. Cindy. Our next author is Crumley, as I call her. Hold on, let me see if we can get her in there. Get the link up. Oh, it's a pre-order. Oh, cool. Very nice. Let's see if this is behaving. Behave. There it is. You don't go in there. We out. Ravenslayer, welcome. Good morning. M. Crumley, urban fantasy author. Is this a Doc 18? I'm guessing it's another Doc Holiday story, which is great. She's been doing quite a few of those. So that's the link. It's a pre-order, so it's coming out next week. Excellent. So as I said, we support our indie authors. Go pick up click the link pre-order, and then that way when it drops next week, she'll have a lot of sales already generated, which is excellent and really helps her out. I want to give a huge shout out to our indie authors, Nicole and M. Crumley. You guys are fantastic. Keep doing what you're doing. Okay, all right. Okay, I want to go over this. So basically, what's going on is that our Patreon is generating a lot of interest. So usually every MoB Kaffeeklatsch, I go through the list of all the new Patreons, all the new patrons who go in. So, all right, here's the list. Grab a cup of coffee because we're going to be here for a little while, okay? This is in no order, so I'm just going to read them as I got them, okay? Rebecca Birovasek. Hope I didn't mangle your name too badly, Rebecca. Shadow of Dragons. These are the names that people give, so we just go by the names. Kay, Heidi Wolf, Jeff Barnard, Diane C. Wagner, Marianne. That's the name, but probably one of our Mariannes. Janet Gill, Connor Eaton, Zip Lab. Again, we don't discriminate against the names. Mark Roy, Melinda Lalonde. Apologies, Melinda, if I really mangled that name too. Roberta Cohen, Penny Lacoste. I'm thinking like the alligator. Aglaya Greenberg, Jen Brady, Isabel Sanchez, and Domino. Domino was her last name. And Domino. Okay. Those are our new members, and it's growing every day. It's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So let me just remove this. I want to give a huge shout out to all our patrons, new and veteran. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much. The reason I want to emphasize this is because there are a lot of stories that are coming out just for Patreon. And I don't want you to miss them. And the only way you're going to have access to those particular stories is if you join our Patreon. So let me have the link from the Patreon. I'll put it up in a moment and see what this is saying. It's okay. Remember, I was Artist 56 on YouTube. Yeah, I remember. I actually do remember. So yeah, it's like that. So the reason, so it's really important that you join the Patreon because a lot of these stories that are coming out, I'm working on the end of, I'm going to do this a little out of order, but the end of Senior Citizen is dropping. Senior Citizen is almost done. Brew and Chew, you guys already going to start getting Brew and Chew. Frozen Fire is going back up on Patreon. But the Patreon exclusive story is The Morgan's Man. That's only on Patreon. That's only for you guys. You guys have been amazing. And I really wanted to make sure you guys had something that was kind of special and unique. And so that is only on Patreon. And that, I think we're on part two? I'm pretty sure we're part two. Part two. I'm pretty sure we're on part two. I keep forgetting, but it's because we drop them. It's something I forget is that we have so many things happening. I have so many things happening at once. So, but the Morgan's Man has been a blast to get into. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later in the miscellaneous before we end the show, because I have something that I think you guys may want to kind of jump into. So that's everyone that is in our Patreon, and our patrons are amazing. You guys are going above and beyond and helping us and supporting and really, really making our Patreon page blow up, which is fantastic. Thank you so much. Let's see. Yes, Cindy, thank you so much. I'm glad that you're really enjoying the content. Chris says, and thank you, Ravensler, for welcoming our new Patreon members. Chris is saying, I think Patreon is a monthly magazine. Yeah, I think it's something like that. I think it's similar, right? It used to be a mag just for one. Yeah, it's true. I remember when I used to buy Heavy Metal, this magazine way back in the day, dating myself. But sometimes Heavy Metal would feature just one really good artist and one really good story, and you get the entire magazine just for that one story. And that is the stuff that that's the stuff that we would do as kids. I'd get Heavy Metal just to get that one story, and that's basically what we're doing with our patrons, creating awesome stories that you would enjoy that are not in the regular, I guess, library of books, but just something very special for patrons. Omni was another big one that I would just get for the story. So now we're going way back, Chris, and we're talking Omni. Thank you, Don. I appreciate it. Thank you for the kind words. Rebecca, he really is getting kind of brave around the Morgan. Yeah, it's really, I don't know if that's going to be good or bad. Yeah, but the stories are really fun. Thank you so much, Mary Beth. I'm glad that you enjoy the stories. I'm having a lot of fun writing these stories. And I was telling Chris the other day that I was just kind of cataloging and going down the library because we have a lot of stories inside Patreon now. I remember when it was only one or two, and now it's about 20 or something like that. I was checking. But what happens is that I start reading the stories just to kind of organize them, and I just start getting into the stories. I was reading Peanut 2 the other day, and I just started getting into the story. I was like, wow, this is a really good story, as if I didn't write it. Oh, yeah. Yeah, Heavy Metal, Omni, Old School, Galaxy Sci-Fi. There were a few other sci-fi magazines that can come out. What was one that has Amazing Stories, I believe is what it was, but that's going way back, Amazing Stories. But we pick up those magazines, and not to mention all the comics that we would get, and every month you just read it, and sometimes it would be not just Heavy Metal, but Marvel used to put I guess it's like a graphic novel that they would put out every month, and it's like you would wait for them to put out these graphic novels because it was just something that you knew it was going to be a good story, but it was going to be kind of like a different story, not the usual, and you would only get it in this graphic novel form. It was also very much like the what if stories. So Marvel used to have this one thing called What If. It didn't come out every month. It came out almost every 2 or 3 months, but it was an alternate to whatever was going on in the universe. And they would say, like, what if Doctor Strange did this? Or what if something? And so they would kind of play with the characters and create alternate stories. And I would love those what if stories because they were great. And I think they brought it to the screen too in Disney, which is fantastic. Yeah, it was just amazing. And so we have so many stories now. Who was it that was here? Rebecca was cramming stories the other day. I saw you reading all the stories, Rebecca. You were just reading and reading and reading. And I was like, oh, Rebecca's catching up. Ravens that says, yeah, Omni is dating herself. Yeah, I want to say Omni for me was, I want to say early 80s, something like that. 80s, 79, 80. I want to say 80s. I remember getting the magazine and just, because it would come into the newsstand and you can't miss Omni. It was just this great cover. Excuse me. And so I would get Omni and just read the stories. And I had friends who would also read it. And we would discuss, we'd sound really, really smart because we'd be discussing these scientific stories. Because Omni wasn't just stories, it was also theories, scientific theories, and things like this. And so we'd debate and discuss these scientific things. And yes, we were a bunch of nerds, which was awesome. But it was a great learning experience, and it was a great upbringing in the sense that we got to be exposed to different things in terms of science. It was back then it was cutting edge. Now it's stuff that's present and happening. The annuals from each of Marvel were great, and sometimes what I used to have, I don't think I can find them now. I used to have these big Marvel crossovers, but these were just gigantic comic books. They were like this big, like maybe 2 foot by 3 foot, huge crossovers between Marvel and DC. And they would write like, what if the Hulk fought some DC character, or what if the Avengers fought the Justice League and things like that. And but they would make it extra large, and these were annuals, and they were huge comic books that you could only get in the comic book store. They were fantastic. They were really great. So all that is to say, I want you to do two things. If you're a patron, I want you to please share with other people who you think would enjoy the stories. Not to go too far out of your way, but just to let other people know that the Patreon page has stories that they might enjoy. And to just please share as much as you can. It really helps the page grow, which is fantastic. Um, I think I got the Pulp House magazines too. Yeah, I was collecting a lot of stuff back then. I had a whole bunch of like comics and magazines and everything. And as Chris says, yes, Spider-Man versus Superman was another one. The Teen Titans versus something else. It was really, really interesting. As Chris says, if you're on YouTube, please don't forget to hit the thumbs up button. And thank you, and like and subscribe, and hit that thumbs up because it really does help us. And as you may have noticed, I haven't done CWWs lately because I'm revamping the format, and I have to kind of reallocate the time for it. Instead of doing a 6 minute video, I want to do, instead of doing 3 6 minute videos, I kind of want to do just one, maybe 15-minute video and do it as a weekly magazine type thing. Um, yeah, Asimov was all over the place. This is true, and we had to really just I had to scale down because I was collecting so much stuff. But we always had a lot of comics all over the place, and people would. I had friends who would come over and use the comics to draw, like, to copy and draw characters and things like that. So that was always fun too. Yeah, there's somewhere. Yeah, because I always took really good care of them. So yes, Cindy, they're somewhere. They're all over the place, but they're somewhere. All right, let's move on. Okay, so we promoted our authors, we did our Patreon, so please don't forget to share the Patreon page as much as you can, and I will keep letting people know because I really do want everyone to read especially the Morgan's Man. But there's a senior citizens in there. There are a few other stories that are in there, and then those of you that are on Patreon get to see kind of sneak previews of the stories that are being written, which is awesome. A really good advantage of being part of Patreon. You get to see the stories, you get the behind the scenes of how stories are done. So you get to see the rough draft, and then you get to see kind of a semi-polished draft, and then you get to see another semi-polished draft, and you get to see the evolution of the story. For those of you that are writers, you get to kind of be there as the story is taking shape and form, and you get to see it from rough draft to almost finished product, and then the finished product. So it does really kind of help you as a writer see that if this doesn't happen, it doesn't come out poof, perfect. It's like it takes a while. It takes a few versions, um, and I share that with you so you can get to see a behind the scenes, how the sausage is made, kind of thing, how the books are written, how they evolve, how they change, how some ideas are kept and some ideas are discarded or changed over time, which really helps writers because I didn't have that. By the time I got to see a book that was young, as a reader, we rarely, if ever, got to see a book before it was a published book. So to see a book in its concept phase and to see it as it's being written, as it changes, as some ideas grow and then some ideas are evolving, it really does help to see that as a writer. Let's see. But yeah, so that's the Patreon. That's my Patreon spiel, I guess. But I really appreciate all of you being part of Patreon, and I really appreciate your help and your assistance if you've shared the Patreon page with someone. Thank you so much. I've lasted this long on Patreon because I'm just blown away that we have. I didn't even count how many names we have. 2, 3, 4, 17 just this week. So yeah, it's amazing. Welcome, Connie. You're not late. You're here, and that's what matters. Hello, Connie. Welcome. I'm glad you're driving safe. Please be in listening mode. Do not look at any screens while you're driving. It's dangerous. Okay. Okay. We have updates. All right. So let's see. What can I? Okay. Before I dive into the updates, does anyone have anything to say about Deadeye? Anything? Because I'm gonna go into the. I'm not. Hopefully, by now, all of you've read Deadeye. I really do hope so. But so there's been a little development with Deadeye. It was on Amazon under its usual categories. But if you notice, maybe we can use this as a trivia question at some point later in the future. Deadeye has no magic on the cover. And apparently this triggered something with the Amazon bots. And they said it had the wrong categories. It's not metaphysical. It's not metaphysical fantasy. It's not metaphysical visionary. It's not whatever the categories are. It's a category that I've been putting it in every Mountain Strong book since the beginning. It didn't apply. So they removed it. They removed all the categories. They had to recategorize it as paranormal, urban fantasy, and something like that. But I put it in categories that made sense. But it was really interesting to see that they removed the categories that every M&S book has been in. And we're talking 27 books since the beginning, but it's in the same category. It's incredible. So I was like, wow, okay. But I think I want to attribute that to not having magic on the cover because they said it could be misleading. The categories that I had it in could be misleading, which is amazing. But you roll with the punches. I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. Sid Rat has been quiet. Yes. It's gonna be quiet for a little while, but Rebecca, just know that you're gonna see Sid Rat a lot more in the Patreon space before he ever comes out into a book. He might make cameos because Sid Rat is like that, but you'll definitely see him in the Patreon space coming up soon. I'm glad you enjoyed it. That Raven's there. I'm glad you enjoyed it, Don. It was fun to write. So, regarding the next part of Deadeye, Nemesis, let's go over the updates and then we can discuss Nemesis a bit. Okay, here we go. I'm glad it was very thought-provoking, right, Beth? What made you think? Because there's a lot going on in Deadeye. It was thought-provoking to write it, and there was a few thoughts that arose in terms of dealing with past and regret and actions not taken, which is we all have those in our lives, right? I'm pretty sure Nemesis has magic on the cover, which is gonna make whatever Amazon authorities gonna drive them crazy. But yes, almost every M&S book, if not every M&S book, has magic on the cover, some form of it. Nemesis I'm pretty certain, will have magic. I have to look at it because it's been a while since I looked at the cover. But yes, Cindy, there will be magic. Deadeye, I didn't really notice that until they pointed it out that it didn't have a magical element on the cover. And so it's like, that's interesting because it's true, which is why I didn't really make a big fuss out. It's not representative of metaphysical. So I think they just go by like the imagery and maybe a few phrases. And the beginning of the book, the beginning of the book does have explosions, but you don't automatically know that it's runic. Everything is runic. So yeah, so it was pretty emotional. It was an emotional book. It started off with an emotional scene. I try never to spoil the books in case anyone hasn't read it, but I hope by now everyone has read it. But it was emotional. The beginning was emotional. There was a body count in this one, which is a little surprising for M&S because they don't really have high body counts. But it was necessary for the story to progress the way it did. And as Heather is pointing out, it will be interesting to see if Monty will walk a path to possess his mom's blade and what that path will be and how far will he be willing to go to get his mom's blade back. Because now Monty has a vested interest in what's happening with Dira. Before it was because of what was going on with Simon, but now it's because Dira took the blade that does not belong to her, and so Monty's like, I'm not. I'm not. I'm not letting this stand. You better run because I'm coming for you, kind of thing. Yeah, and it was important that it was mostly PR, the whole thing with Monty and his aunt, and that he got together with her. And the beginning of Nemesis is going to be because now it's dealing with Paige's death. Paige had a glorious death in Deadeye. Oh, so did Simon miss the shot? No, he did not miss. Deadeye does not miss. But he wasn't going to kill a child. So let me just clarify that for you now. Simon didn't miss the shot. He didn't take the shot that he was expected to take. But if you, this might be spoilers. I hope you read it. But if you remember, Gabriel says you gave me this, and he points to the scar that he has. What Simon did was graze Gabriel enough to make it seem as if he got shot, which is why there was so much blood. And then when seeing that much blood, it looks like Simon took the shot. But they investigate because they have to see if he's really dead, and Gabriel wasn't dead. So it looks like he missed the shot. But Simon did not miss the shot. The shot that he wanted to take was not missed. He wasn't going to kill a child. And so that's it's to Shadow Company. It seemed like he missed a shot. To Simon, he knew what he was doing. What he did was bought Gabriel and his family some time to get away. So that's why. So exactly, did Simon miss a shot? No, he hit the shot that he wanted to hit. To Shadow Company, it looks like he missed a shot because Gabriel was still alive, And to Cutter, of course, it's like, hey, you should have done what you were supposed to do. What did you think they were going to do? They're going to forget? You missed your shot. But Simon knew what he was doing. That's what made him a Deadeye. That he was so good that he could shoot at Gabriel, take the shot, graze him enough to make it look like he hit him, but not kill the child, but still make it look like he had a lethal shot. So that's what happened. Yes, please quote. You can quote. He did not miss the shot. Just to clarify, he didn't miss the shot he wanted to take. He missed the shot that Shadow Company wanted him to take. There's a real distinction there. Yeah, it was a cover. So he did not miss a shot. Deadeyes don't miss. I think Johatsu says that a few times. Deadeye doesn't miss. It was a brilliant shot. And then when Cutter tried to take the shot, he missed the shot. So if anyone missed that shot, Cutter missed the shot. Even though, we're going to go into too much detail because you have to read the story. But yes, Cutter couldn't take the shot that Simon missed, in quotations. It was designed to be very difficult, the shot. He took it. He did what he needed to do. He bought them time, and that's why Gabriel is alive today to talk about the scar that Simon gave him. And imagine, on an adult, that would be hard. On a child, that would be nearly impossible because you have to be precise where you're going to shoot and hit and make sure that it's a graze so that it goes in enough to cut. And you're not using a knife, you're using a bullet, and a big bullet. You look at the gun that he has on the cover, that's a bullet designed to explode a target. So to go deep enough to cut and cause blood, but not deep enough to damage, that takes precision, So yes, so that's what Simon did, and then they managed to escape, and then if you read the story, you know what happened. He went off mission because he refused to kill a kid, and so he went off the reservation. And it was almost an impossible shot. The only person that could make a shot like that was a Deadeye. And he wasn't going to. That's a line that he wasn't going to cross. It's a line that he still won't cross ever. Of taking the life of a child, he won't do that ever. And you can see how he gets a little touchy when that subject comes up, and why he reacts the way he reacts with CC or Peanut, because that's part of who he is, you know. So why did Shadow Company need that lie that he missed a shot? Because it justifies them going after Simon. That's why. So he wasn't exactly set up in the sense of they thought he took the shot. They found out he didn't take the shot, which means he didn't fulfill the contract, which means we're coming after you. Because you don't fulfill a contract as a Deadeye, you're dead. So they come after you. Go ahead, Jennifer. That's important. We won't say anything important. We'll stick to non-important topics for a few minutes. Go have that call. That's important. And protecting kids is what started Monty and Strong. If you go back to No God is Safe, which is the first, it wasn't the first story written, but it's the first story where Monty and Simon meet. They met around breaking up a ring that was kind of capturing children and taking their essence. And it was a power play between Shiva and Kali, and Simon and Monty got involved in that. But it was to protect the kids. That's the whole thing, was to protect the kids, and that's where they met. That's how they encountered. That's where Simon encountered Kali first, and that's when everything happened. And if you read No God is Safe, you'll see that everything stems from that. So Simon's not going to change who he is. So here we are, 28 books later. Simon might have grown in many ways, but the core of who he is has not changed. Hey, Connie. So he hasn't changed in that regard. And Monty is the same. Monty went out of his way to teach Cece, or Cecilia, as he calls her, because she has a test coming up, and he wants to make sure that she'll pass. No, and no, they haven't. No to both of those, Anthony. Monty just, he hasn't got involved with anyone to that extent, and if he did now, Roxanne would kill him. And Simon probably the same thing. Michiko would kill him. So no, they never lost one, and they don't have it. So I don't think they could in good conscience have kids right now because of the lives that they're leading. And you'd be putting the kids in danger if you think about it. Because if they can't get to Simon and they can't get to Monty, the next best target to do damage to either of them would be their children. So, they wouldn't have kids just because it would be too dangerous for the kids. Now you have to have time, yeah, and they don't have that kind of time. Monty barely has time to teach Cece. Imagine. Yeah. Right. Well, it was an excuse to kill Simon back when he wasn't cursed alive, Isa, and so they wanted to remove him. Once they found out that he wasn't that he didn't commit what they wanted him to do, they wanted to eliminate him. Except that they didn't have anyone just as good as him. That was the thing, and he was able to, kind of, get out of there. So and then after that, while he met Kali and everything changed. So Cutter couldn't do what he wanted to do. But yes, you have to have time to have kids, and neither Monty or Simon nor Simon have that kind of time. It's hard enough for Monty to teach Cece. So imagine to the degree that they managed to get Cece sent to the School of Battle Magic. Monty had her kind of transferred over, but Olga's okay, and then she's kind of being taught by the Morrigan and Dex, which I don't know if that's such a good idea, especially with Peanut there. And then because those two, as they get stronger, it's like it's going to be dangerous. If you're reading the Morrigan's Man, assignment 1, you'll see what I'm talking about Peanut, and it's getting dangerous. It's like, you don't want those kids having too much power, but it's just the nature of who they are. Oh, and the Brew and Chew is coming. The next short story of the Brew and Chew crew, and that's going to be a lot of fun. Monty and Simon will be the uncles for long. Oh yeah, those are the uncles. Here's the thing: Monty is going to be the uncle that makes sure that they follow the rules, Simon's going to be the uncle that helps them break all the rules. And there's going to be a nice little uh, tension there. And then the parents are basically like, Dex and the Morgan, but with uncles like Monty and Simon, and not to mention the guardians, their bond mates. One has Rags, which is Cece, and Peanut has Kai, which is a Drake, and that's gonna be so those two getting together and having things happening to them. You'll see in Brew and Chew. It's gonna be crazy. It's crazy already, but it's gonna be crazy. See, Chris says how Simon treats little Cece and Peanut is exactly how I feel about kids wanting them and not having. Right. Simon doesn't want any kids, but he really goes out of his way to protect them, and he will do whatever it takes to keep them safe. He confronted Kali in the first mission, in the first case, only because kids were involved, and he said he would do it again. If you go back to a recent story, um, and Kali questions him, do you want to change that? He goes, no, I wouldn't change anything because the kids were involved. And even in No God is Safe, he says it, there were kids involved because he was asked, why did you get involved? And there were kids involved. So that's who he is. And that's how it is. And that's who Simon is. Yeah, he's the good scary right. It's so there's a lot that goes into, like, you'll see more of Monty's you get to see a little bit of Monty's history a bit more because he's a little bit more closed in terms of the stories. But we've been delving into Monty's family a bit more. First with Shadow Pete, and now with Aunt Primo, and so we got to see a little bit more, kind of behind the scenes in Monty's history, and a little bit more will be coming out as the books progress, especially now with Nemesis when he starts going for his mom's blade and why he's going so hard to get the blade back. It's not just a matter of family pride. There's a reason why he wants that blade back. That will be revealed in Nemesis. I can't tell you that. But we'll get to see a little bit more of why Monty is the way Monty is in terms of that, and his family, and the fact that Dex is the black sheep, and by default, because Monty is kind of Dex's favorite nephew, that makes Monty kind of the black sheep as well, and why the family treats them the way that they do, and the fact that Dex doesn't really care. He's like, yeah, it's not a big deal. Also, they're scared of Dex because Dex is so powerful, and he's partnered with the Morgan. I'd be scared of Dex too if I was the Montague family because he's partnered with a goddess who's known as the chooser of the slain. That makes most people think twice, for sure. I love that the kids had to say yes. That was really good, and I think it's a little challenging to write the Brew and Chew stories, like the because I'm writing it from Peach's point of view, and Peach's I simplify Peach's vocabulary because of the way he is in the books, but he does have a very elevated vocabulary. It's just that it doesn't come out all the time. When I get the Brew and Chew together, Frank, the dragon, can speak to Peaches in a more elevated way. He calls him Professor Peaches, and Peaches still uses a very simplified kind of form of speech. So I have to really modify the conversations a bit. And Peaches very rarely uses names. So he calls Monty the angry man, he'll call Cece the cold girl, things like that. Because it's also very sensory for Peaches. Unless he's in his XL form, and then he'll speak very elevated. So Shadow Company afraid of Simon. Yes, but not so afraid that they won't try to kill him. They're just gonna bide their time for a little bit. Then it's a long line of beings and entities that want to kind of eliminate Simon. The problem is that Simon doesn't die, so it's gonna be very hard unless the proper weapon is used, and it's a weapon that they have, a weapon that Dira has, which comes out in the next book, in Nemesis. Yeah, they have every right to be scared of Simon, especially an angry Simon if they come after him, because he can very well turn around and go after them. And how much devastation can be caused, or he's willing to cause, and how much devastation ripples outward from his actions is another thing to consider. Because Simon is now realizing that it's not just him he has to worry about. He has to worry about as Kali has told him, it's not just you, it's all the people your life touches are also now in danger. or also not targets. So he can't just go and do things. He has to kind of think about, if I do this, who else is going to be impacted? And before, in the early books, he would just do whatever. But now as he's getting stronger, he's realizing, if I take these actions, there are other people that I'm putting in danger by my actions. And so he has to really start thinking about, is it worth it? Or do I have to eliminate this at its source, at the root? So if he goes after Shadow Company, he's got to destroy all of Shadow Company to ensure that nothing comes back to him or the people in his life. Like Cutter was doing. Cutter was like, hey, I take out the Randy Rump, things like that. And so he realizes that the way Shadow Company operates, that they're not just going to come after him, they'll come after everyone he knows and everyone that his wife touches. That includes Cece, although I wouldn't mess with Cece, and Peanut, or Jimmy at the Randy Rump, or anyone else that he knows, or Ramirez at the NYTF, people who may be vulnerable. And so it's like, yeah. Let's see, I was the creator. Let me go back. A conversation between Peaches and Kai. That's gonna happen in Brew and Chew. That's gonna be so much fun. Chris says, I had my niece and nephews convinced as kids that my dragon tattoo came to life overnight and flew around the room. It's so awesome you can do that when they're kids until they get smarter. That's not true. You're just dying. I was a crazy cool uncle. My wife backed me up. Yes, of course, it does. It flies. Sometimes I gotta dodge when I walk in at nighttime because it hits me in the head kind of thing. It's fun to do that. It is. Let's see. So okay. Rebecca says, I assume Kai is larger than Frank. Yes, everyone is larger than Frank. But Frank is a dragon, and you can't tell him any different. But yes, Kai is much larger than Frank. Yeah, Kai would be almost like he varies in size because he's a Drake and he can control his size a little differently than Peaches does, because Peaches does it under kind of stress or in reaction to certain situations. Kai, as a dragon, can control his size easily because it's part of being a dragon. Let's see, Cindy says, so maybe I'm naive, but I would think that was always the back of Simon's mind that it could put others. Yes, it is, but it isn't, because remember that Simon kind of was thrust into this world, and so he was basically being very reactionary to everything that was happening to him. But now he's being proactive a bit, and so it has to change the way he moves, what he does, what he says. Not so much what he says, because he's still Simon. He's gonna say whatever he wants to say. But what he does, he's gonna consider it a bit more before he acts. And if you look at the most recent books, you see that he's evolving, he's changing. He's not just reacting to things and then taking an action no matter what happens. He's starting to think about, if I do this, it's gonna come back, and things like that. So yeah, he's maturing, which is what he needs to do. It's been 28 books. He should do a little maturing. Let's see. Simon has his own code. He's unpredictable. Shadow Company thrives on absolute obedience. They're not going to get it from Simon, which is going to bring them to a head later on. But that's not happening for another. Jeez. If you see me looking over, I'm looking at the list of books. Around book 38 is another confrontation, probably the final confrontation with Shadow Company. Yeah. Chris says Simon so reminds me of John Wayne. His own code of honor. He was sent from and died. Yep. Let's see. Heather says, kind of envision Kai as being big enough to reinforce the furniture in normal form. He's big. Since he's a Drake, he can be fairly big. But since he's not a full dragon, he's not enormous, which is why he can hang around with Peanut. And if you read the story, because it's in Patreon, Kai is bonded to Peanut, but he owes Peanut his life, which is why he decided to stick around with Peanut, and why the Morrigan bound them together. So Kai will protect Peanut until his last breath. Yes, Simon hesitated before speaking to the Morrigan because he knows what it entails. Old Simon would have just said something really dumb and got himself blasted because even though he's speaking to the Morrigan, he's no respecter of power in terms of that. I mean, he respects power in itself, its absolute form, but he also realizes that most beings that have power misuse it or abuse it, so it kind of angers him. And so he kind of says things that he shouldn't, or he speaks before he thinks, and then he ends up in pain. So, But he's not scared of the Morgan. Okay, he is scared of the Morgan, but he's not going to show her that he's scared. But he's scared of all the goddesses or gods that he has faced. Kali and the Morgan would be top two, and probably Dex in his Harbinger form, because Dex in his Harbinger form is really scary. So yeah, that's how he will react in terms of that. But he is evolving, he's growing, and I know many of you, myself included, have wanted to smack him upside the head throughout the books. I've wanted to smack him so many times. And he said and done things. I'm like, why would you do that? Can't you see like that's the worst possible thing you could do? But that's what makes his evolution so much fun, and the fact that he's growing really, really, really fun to write now, because what he would have said in the past would have been one thing, but now it's something else and something a little bit more mature. And if you read The Morgan's Man, he's even more mature because he's operating with a different parameters of power as the deathless. I can't say much more than that because I don't want to give it away. But listen, if you if you, I know it sounds like a broken record, but if you join Patreon, you can see how he has evolved even further as the deathless in The Morgan's Man. Kai is not really a gatekeeper. Kai is just a dragon, a baby dragon, a drake that is on the run in a way. Where's Kai? Oh, and he's gonna be in Brew and Chew. He's one of the main characters in Brew and Chew. I can tell you this much: in Brew and Chew, Kai is kind of the catalyst that brings the Brew and Chew together. Yeah. Oh, a story about Simon as a teenager would be interesting. That would be interesting. Even one a story of at one point way early on, like we're talking Tomb Yards and Butterflies days, way back then when I was writing that. I was actually thinking of a young Monty and Simon story, like just a version of them as like kids, like teenagers, and what it would be like to have them run into each other that young. But that just screws all the timelines. That's something that Sid would have to get involved with. It's like that's just something that's really convoluted. Okay, before we get to the questions because we're close, I want to finish the update. So okay, Frozen Fire in production, Brew and Chew in production. A lot of stuff that's in production. Morgan's Man in production. I think the first assignment is going to be done soon. Senior Citizen will be done soon, probably by the end of this weekend. Nemesis is in the prep phase. I'm writing. Well, I'm not writing. Actually, it's already done. It's one of the first things that I've done that I did as a writer. I wrote a book in parenting called The Fantastic Fathers. I think The Fantastic Four. It was cool. It was a cool notion at the time. But I have it ready. I have a cover being created by DDD, which looks really fun. It's a nonfiction book on parenting. When I shopped it around, this is going way back. I actually shopped this book around to actual publishers, and they told me, if you don't have a PhD in parenting, no one's gonna buy it. So I shelved the book. I have it, and I shelved it, and didn't look back. I just kind of left it there. And over the summer, as I was kind of getting rid of some stuff in other files, I found it again. And then I looked in the files, and I had it saved as an actual file. And so I'm going to be polishing that and releasing that at some point this year. Dolly will have to kind of give it a pass and look at it and see if it makes sense. But yeah, it's a book on it's the 12 attributes of a fantastic father. So we'll see how that goes. That'll be fun to kind of put out there. Would they have been friends as teens? They would have had. It would have taken a certain set of circumstances for them to be friends as teens, because Monty comes from a whole different circle, an affluent circle, and Simon does not. So they move in very different circles. So you need a specific set of circumstances to get them to interact and then become friends. But I'm not writing that story. It's going to take too much kind of manipulating of timelines, and Sid's going to have to come in. It's going to be like a Twilight Zone thing. It's too much work right now. Maybe I'm not going to say never, because there are a lot of stories that I wrote that I said I'm never going to write, but that one would take some time to write. Yeah. So I'm leaving that for now, that idea of Monty and Simon as teens, I'm leaving that for now. Yeah, so they told me, Chris, because Chris is saying we're all alive, and as are our kids, and that makes us parents. Yeah, they told me if you don't have a PhD in something like sociology or whatever the case may be, um, you can't. If you write this book, no publishing house is going to be able to sell it, and no one's really going to buy it because you don't have credentials. I'm like, I have kids. I have a lot of kids. What do you mean I don't have credentials? And they're okay, you know. So having children didn't count, Cindy. No, to become fantastic, it didn't count. So I said, okay. I wrote the book anyway. I had it written already, and then I left it alone because back then I didn't know better, and self-publishing had not really blossomed and grown the way it has now. So I left it alone. But now, you know what? Kids, a lot of the kids are all grown up, living, doing their own thing, and the younger ones are not so young anymore. So you know what? Maybe it's time to get this out there. So we'll see. And maybe I'll go on talks on how to be a fantastic father. Um, it's realizing that we're all flawed as parents, and that's okay. You're not gonna get it perfect. You just gotta do your best as a parent. There's a lot of good stuff in that book that I wrote a long time ago that still holds true today. So we'll see. I'll try to write one about being an awesome brother. Yeah, that's gonna take a that book. I don't think I'm gonna write that because it requires, you know, I'm not gonna be. That's like bragging at this point. So I'm gonna wait on that one too. Children are not a requirement to be an adult or good to any kids. They're not. You don't need to have them to be good. You don't need credentials to be good as a parent or as an adult. Let's see. Simon is a master of snark, says Rebecca. This is true. And I've actually tried to tone down the snark a bit because he's evolving, he's maturing, and it can't all be snark. But he still has that sharp wit, and I'm trying to refine that as well as he matures. I'm trying to refine and mature his wit so that it comes across as more intelligent, not just snark for the sake of snark. You know? Both of my kids decided early to not have kids. Bring children to space. Yeah, I mean it's a choice, right? So we'll, we'll see what happens when the book comes out. Maybe I'll get invited. You know what? I'm gonna push for a TED talk on the Fantastic Father. Let's see if that happens. That'll be fun. Oh yeah. Well, yeah, Lee and I used to do Dunkin' Donut runs in the middle of the night, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. I would drag her to go, and we were young, and we'd sneak out the window, and then the Dunkin' Donuts was on some Junction Boulevard from where we were, so it was like 6, 7 blocks away. In the middle of the night, we were fairly young. Different time, very different time. I would not. I would hunt my kids down if they tried to jump out of a window to go to Dunkin' Donuts, which still exists today. That same one. There's no way I would let them do that today. No way. No, that would so not happen. Rebecca, you're welcome. I liked Cecil's story. It was when I wrote it. It was really touching because of how his history with his dad, right, and what was expected of him, and the fact that he was still able to contribute something amazing, but maybe not in the way his father expected him to be, because he's a fair child, and all fair childs are battle mages, and he's got. And then that Dex was able to see there was something else there for Cecil if he was willing to go for it, and that Dex was able to speak to Cecil's dad and say, "Listen, if this doesn't make him a battle mage, I don't know what does," because he's able to keep many battle mages alive through his gift. That was a great story. I like that story. That was one of the stories that I like all the stories on Patreon. Those short stories are amazing. But that one, the Cecil story, was really good because we don't know much about Cecil, how he turned out the way he did, why he turned out the way he did, and his ability. And when we see him later on as an adult, and he's ruining this, and he's ruining the Shrike, and he's ruining all their vehicles, and we get to kind of see the why of it, which is really nice to kind of go back and see, oh, this is why he ruins things the way he does, and he's involved as a master armorer and things like that. It kind of, again, a little bit behind the scenes was really fun. Okay, We would have to figure out how to get back in the house. Yes, that was the key, getting back in without waking up my mom. That was it. Because we got the donuts, but getting back was the dicey part. All right, let me get to the questions because it's already we have like 10 minutes. Yeah, we have like 10 minutes, or 15 minutes. All right, let me get to the question. Audrey, question queen keeps her streak going. All right, Audrey. First question. I want to say thank you for the questions, Audrey and Chris, who provided questions for this Kaffeeklatsch. All right. How do you keep track of your ideas and inspirations? I write books. That's how I keep track of them. Other than writing the stories, I have note-taking capture tools, as they're called. So I have entire files on my phone. So I'll write notes real quick, like if I'm outside or if I'm driving, I'll pull over and I'll write an idea that hits me in the moment, or if I'm in the kitchen, or wherever it may be. As long as I have my phone with me, I can write an idea down. My wallet also has, I don't know if you've ever seen it, these are called architect wallets. And what they do is that they have a notebook inside, and it comes with a pen. This is a space pen, which is really cool. You can write upside down with it, and in water. And so I'll take notes in here. So this is like the backup. Like if I don't have my phone, I'll use that. But most of the time, I'll put the notes into my phone, and sometimes the ideas will sit there for a long time until I get around to. Some ideas need to simmer. Some ideas don't happen, but most of them do, or they're incorporated into stories, and they just need to simmer. That's all. But I'll write them down, and usually the ideas come when I'm in the middle of another story. I'll get hit with ideas. This is what happened with Monty Strong. Monty Strong happened in the middle of Sepia Blue. And then, you know what happened there. I was third book of Sepia Blue. Monty Strong ambushed me, blindsided me. And then I had to write Monty Strong, and here we are 28 books later. Although Sepia Blue did get finished, which I'm very happy about that. But it took 4 years between book 3 and book 4. So, yeah, there was that. Thank you. Yeah, I have to replace it. It's getting old, and it's starting to show wear and tear. It's a really good wallet. Let's see. What is my sister saying? DD runs were small compared to the instant. Oh, we will have some. We cannot share any of those adventures. So yeah, we survived. We did some things that we shouldn't be here now to talk about some of the things that we did when we were young. Yeah. So I'm just gonna put it like that. Sepia Blue is a great story. I really like Sepia Blue. And you know what? It's interesting that it took 4 years to finish, because the last book couldn't have been written the way it was written without Monty Strong. If you read the last book of Sepia Blue. So it's an interesting kind of crossover culmination of that series. And you can kind of see what was hard about writing Sepia Blue going back after 4 years was how much I had changed as a writer, and having to go back and capture the voice that I had when I started Sepia Blue, and now many years later, going back 4 years later, to actually I have to kind of grab that voice, grow it, and then finish writing the story, because I didn't want to finish writing the story in Sepia Blue. Same thing with John Kane. Poor John Kane. Peace. All right. Next question from Audrey. If you could change something about yourself, what would it be and why? That's a good question. That requires more introspection. But I would be more open. I think I'm a little bit reserved. I think I would be a little bit more open. That's great. I think that would be it. I am kind of standoffish. I know that I'm sometimes difficult to be around, and I'm aware of it. But that's what I would change. Why? I guess it's because it's nicer, but it's very hard for me to do nice. I tell Dolly all the time I don't do nice, so she knows it. I don't. Nice is not part of my DNA. I'm also a New Yorker. We don't really do nice in New York, so we don't have New York hospitality like down south, like Southern hospitality. We don't have. We'll help you out in a crisis. That's for sure. Yes, but we don't really do nice. Also because I was raised in that environment. We're civil up here in the north. We're civil, but we're not hospitable all the time. No. That's not part of the New York DNA. And so part of my upbringing, part of the way I am, I would change that just to be a little warmer. But at this point, I don't think that's gonna happen. It's just Part of the environment and part of the DNA. They mix together to make me the way I am. And my face, my resting face is resting murder face. So it'd be hard to change that. All right, what movie? That was a great question, Audrey. Some nice, deep introspection involved. What movie could you watch 100 times and not get tired of? Oh, come on, you know this: Princess Bride and The Matrix. They really should make a crossover, the Princess Matrix. That would be interesting. But yeah, Princess Bride for sure. I've never watched that. If there's any movie I've watched a lot, it's The Princess Bride. I can probably quote it right now at this point verbatim. And I do when I watch it with the kids, we're already saying all the lines, you know. So yeah, but I would never get tired of The Princess Bride for sure. Great questions, Audrey. Thank you. And you guys know that The Princess Bride is one of the ones I would watch because there's so many lines from The Princess Bride in the books, like as Easter eggs. The Princess Bride is all over the series. It's everywhere. Okay. Chris asks, if Simon is deathless, is Sid timeless? That's a good observation. I would have to say yes because Sid can operate outside of time. As a lead designer, time doesn't really impact or affect him. So I would have to say yes. Simon is deathless because he's cursed alive, and Sid would be timeless because he operates outside of time, or can operate outside of time. He can go in and out of time. Okay, let's see. Monty solo story. Roland making a print. Monty has a solo story. It's called The War Mage. Read that. I don't know if I'm going to write another solo story for Monty. Maybe later on. Maybe. I don't want to say never, but maybe. Yeah. Let's see. Nice. Yeah, I don't do nice. Chris says, "Me too. I'm from Jersey. We do not. Yeah, we just don't. It's not. You can't associate nice with people from where we are. Yeah, and it's part of the environment, and it's also part of the way we were raised. So yeah. But you know the saying: be nice until you no longer have to be nice. You know. But my mom would say you should always try to be a good person, but you don't have to be nice. Sometimes, and I'll speak to that a little bit. We try to teach our children to be nice, and the problem is, and this is my personal opinion, so take it with a grain of salt. In an effort to be nice, our children sometimes are taken advantage of. So be good, yes, but sometimes you can't be nice because people view being nice as being weak or as being easy to exploit. So don't be nice. Be good. That's my PSA for the day, my New York PSA for the day. Bye, Cindy. Have a great day. Yeah, see, my sister knows Inigo Montoya. Listen, Princess Bride. There's something about that story that's just great, and I think it's timeless. And I'm glad that they've never decided to do a remake. And then as long as it's one of those actors that are alive from the original movie, I don't think they'll ever do a remake. We lost Andre, China passed away. I think most of them are still alive. Mandy Patinkin, Carrie Elwes, they're all still here. So, but as long as there's one actor, I think that there's always going to be some, and not to mention all the fans of that movie. No one's going to really go for a Princess Bride remake. You can't remake that movie the way they did it that first time. It's just, I don't want to say it's perfect, but it's like remaking Casablanca. No, you just can't. It's just something that was captured in making that story that you're not going to recapture it again. You know? Yeah, most of them are alive. I think only Andre passed, but most of them are alive. Right. Listen, I don't have an issue with you being nice. I think you should be nice if that's who you are. Being nice, there's nothing wrong with being nice. But I'm telling you, from where I come from, what I'm doing, and the way I was raised, nice is not. Understand that I was born in the Bronx and raised in New York. Nice is not part of the DNA of that equation. It just isn't. Have I learned to be civilized? Yes. Have I learned to be compassionate, empathetic? Yes. Nice, not so much. And it's okay because most of the people around where I'm at aren't nice either. We're civilized, we get along, we're respectful, but none of those require being nice. You can be respectful without being nice. Yeah. So, and mercy does not have to be nice. This is like Heather said. You could be merciful without being nice. Read the stories. There's a lot of stuff that goes on in a story that aren't nice, but are other things that are just as important. Understanding, compassionate, empathetic, merciful, generous. All of that is possible without being nice. Nice gets conflated with weakness, and that's the problem with being nice. Not necessarily true. You don't have to be weak to be nice, but it gets conflated that way. And as New Yorkers, we don't like to do that. That gets you in trouble out here. You don't do that. Yeah. Being kind, and you guys know I always say it, and at the end of every Kaffeeklatsch, I say be kind. One of the 3 B's is be kind. Being kind, you can be powerful. In fact, only the truly strong and powerful can be kind. Because to be kind, you have to have strength, character, in many cases, physical strength. Kindness comes from a place of power. Kindness comes from a place of strength. So when you're strong, when you're powerful, you can be kind, and you don't lose anything by being kind. It's interesting that it seems to be a paradox for a lot of people. To be generous, to be kind, to be good comes from a place of strength. Weak people are usually mean-spirited, mean, vindictive, petty. That usually comes from a foundation of weakness, because the person who's that way is trying to compensate for the weakness, and so they lash out. Okay, it's listen. I'm this. You know how our shows go. We just go where the show wants us to go. So yeah. Ask me no questions. I'll tell you no lies. Don't ask. If you don't want the real answer, don't ask. But if you want the real answer, you ask me. I'm going to tell you the real answer. Yes, that's fine, and that's the way it should be. That's just the way it is. I mean, in New York, it is what it is, and you're okay with that, And you don't need to hate. Yeah, listen. In a world where there's so much, where's my thing? Where's my thing with the hate? I know I put it somewhere. Okay, this is from Ding Coons, right? In a world that encompasses so much pain and fear and cruelty, it is noble to provide a few hours of escape, moments of delight and forgetfulness. That's for writers. But that applies to all of us. The world already has pain and cruelty and hate and fear. There's no need to share more of that. The world already has enough of it. So be kind, be good. You don't need to hate. Don't waste your energy on hate. I remember when we were younger, mom would tell us, you don't need to hate. And you don't need to hate anything. Just don't do that. Don't be involved with that. If someone hates, then you don't need to get involved with that thing. My mom was really wise. I think most moms and dads are. You just don't realize it until we're much, much older. But yeah, so I guess this is the philosophical deep question show today. I have one more thing I want to talk about in terms of the death list and the Morgan's man. Now, this is not another, well, it might be, but not a shameless, what do you call it? Shameless, what do the word be? Shameless plug? Yeah, it's not a shameless plug, but it is. So Monty's going to be doing assignments, right? And this is for you that are in Patreon. If you're in Patreon and there's an assignment, a case that you would like Monty to take on, I say if you're in Patreon because it's only going to apply. You're only going to see it if you're in Patreon. But if you're in Patreon and you're reading The Morgan's Man and you're wondering, wow, what if Simon, what if Simon did X as an assignment? I'm going to ask you to volunteer that assignment to me. Send it to me. And if it's really good, I'll make it one of his assignments. But it only works if you're in Patreon. So if you're not in Patreon, I'm sorry, it might be a good assignment, but you can offer it, but you're not going to see it unless you're in Patreon. So this is why I'm opening this to the Patreon members. If you're a Patreon member and there's an assignment you want to see Deathless take on, Deathless and his hellhound, please submit it. Let me know. Send it to me in a PM, or send it to me somewhere, and that would be awesome. It's kind of like the red shirt thing, but it's even more involved because it's one of your ideas for Deathless. And if it's something like, let's say you want to see raid Ezra's Deli or something like that, to get Peaches some extra meat, that could be an assignment. Things like that. So, but yeah, if so, the conditions are, if you're a member of Patreon, because I want you to be able to see your story, right? And that's good. You will make it because the show's almost done. So if you're a member of Patreon and you have an idea for an assignment for Deathless, please feel free to share with me. And if it's really good and I think it has legs, I will create an assignment for Simon's Deathless to take on. And then I'll let you know. And I will, credit that this is a story assignment submitted by whoever it is, based on an idea from that person. And it'll be great. All right, yeah. So yeah, please. So yeah, listen. If you have an assignment and you're part of Patreon, remember the criteria, please. Because I don't want to get flooded by assignments, and then you're not going to see it if you're not part of Patreon. So please, if you're part of Patreon and you have an assignment, send it to me, and I will consider it and see if it's an idea that we can kind of use for the Morrigan's Man. I think it would be fun. Yeah, Chris, send it to me. Ravens says, in a world full of misery and grief, it is writers' place to bring moments of enlightenment. Yeah, I think writers, creatives, I want to say writers, and under the umbrella of creatives, it's really important that creatives, and we are all creatives in our own way, that we embrace bringing light where we can. It's really important, especially in times that are trying and dark. And I read this one comment by Eli Wiesels and Viktor Frankl as well, that while they were in concentration camps, they found a way to make their lives brighter in the simplest of ways. Because even when things are dark, there are ways to make your life brighter in the darkest of situations. Because we as humans, we can adapt and we can find ways to make our lives better, even in the darkest of situations. And it doesn't get much darker than what was going on in those concentration camps, All right. You guys gotta go. A lot of us have to go. A lot of us have to. And this show was amazing. I want to thank you all. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for being here. Thank you for participating. Lisa, thank you for being here today. It's awesome that you're here. I hope you can make it. We're back here again on the 26th. Oh my God, September's almost done by the next time. You guys are incredible. So remember my 3 B's. Be kind, right? Be unstoppable. Don't let anyone stop you, not even you. Be uncommon. There's only one of you in the entire universe. Embrace that. Be uncommon. Have a fantastic day. Dolly, say bye. Notice my lips are closed. It's not even ventriloquist. That's really Dolly. Okay, guys, have a great day, a great weekend, a great rest of your day today. Thanks so much for being here. I can't thank you enough for being here. Don't forget to join the Patreon. I'm gonna push Patreon because you guys are amazing. You're helping out so much. Ta-ta for now, Jennifer. Yes, and you guys just have a great rest of your day. Really, thanks for being here. It's fantastic. I can't wait till we can actually meet somewhere and have an in-person live Kaffeeklatsch. That would be incredible. If you don't have a class, I expect to see you here, Lee. That'd be great. I really welcome you coming and being here with us. That'd be fantastic. If not, then go do what you got to do because I know your classes are so important. Take care. I'm saying bye to you too. Have a great rest of your day, and I'm going to go eat and then do some more writing and see your citizen gonna get done soon. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. Take care, everyone. I'm gonna put some music now. Yes, we're closing it off. Hold on. Let me get rid of my scary face and put a really attractive face.